有個 T 字位喺中間。中間嘅上面咧，
都差唔多啦，嗬。嗯。
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome, media friends, to the press conference on Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Development Blueprint. With us today are Professor Sun Dong, Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry, Principal Secretary Mr. Eddie Mack, Undersecretary for the Bureau Ms. Lillian Jiang, Mr. Victor Lam, the Government Chief Information Officer, and the Commissioner of Innovation and Technology, Ms. Rebecca Pun. First of all, the Professor will give us a speech and then we will take questions. Professor Sun Dong, please. Members of the public, media friends, good afternoon. Today is the winter solstice. I wish you all a very happy festivity where you can spend time with your loved ones. Now, I'm pleased to announce the Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Development Blueprint. Innovation technology is the driving force behind quality development of our economy. The country's national 14th five-year plan gave support for Hong Kong to become an international I&T hub. This is a new position assigned to us. Now, on the 1st of July, President Xi's important speech highlighted the country's the importance the country attaches to our development as an I&T hub. Now, the work report of the 20th National Congress mentioned the national strategy to invigorate the country by science and education. We have to reinvigorate the country through I&T development. Now, this blueprint is the blueprint published by the Hong Kong SAR government after many years on systematic strategic planning for Hong Kong's I&T development. It charts the way forward for our I&T development for the next 5 to 10 years. And also, it provides a reference concerning the specific I&T measures in future budgets and policy addresses. We will develop Hong Kong into an international I&T center. This is our vision. We have 4 major directions. That is to develop a diversified I&T ecosystem, promote new industrialized, create quality jobs, enhance living quality, as well as contributing to the country's need. Now, we have 4 directions. This is a very visionary blueprint. We will follow the 4 development directions to achieve our goal. First, we have to enhance the I&T ecosystem and promote new industrialization in Hong Kong. 2, we have to strengthen our talent pool and create development impetus. 3, develop digital economy and create a smart city. 4, actively integrating into the national development and become a bridge between mainland and the world. On these 4 bases, the blueprint outlines 8 major strategies with 16 goals and 42 recommendations. These are all for better coordination of Hong Kong's policies in promoting our INT development. Strategy 1. We have to enhance the INT ecosystem and promote interactive development of the upstream, midstream, and downstream sectors. A robust ecosystem requires comprehensive development of the entire stream. In terms of upstream, we will strengthen support to universities' basic research activities and facilities. For midstream, we will step up efforts to incentivize the transformation and realization of research and development outcomes. That is, we will promote the commercialization of outcomes from 1 to N. Downstream, we will implement specific facilitation policies to support the AI, big data industry, as well as other industries with an edge. The second strategy is to promote technology industry development and achieve new industrialization in Hong Kong. For the INT ecosystem to truly take root in Hong Kong, we have to engage in new industrialization. The 20th National Report mentioned we have to promote new industrialization by realizing R&D outcomes and enhance commercialization. We are going to achieve new industrialization. It is different from what we said before, that is reindustrialization. By new industrialization, this will be a technology-driven exercise. Through internet, AI, and modernization and advanced manufacturing, we will engage in a direction which can reflect the developments in technology. In terms of new industrialization, we will enhance resources allocation to advanced industries, for example, semiconductors and new energy vehicles. We will turn Hong Kong into a R&D base for the world. And also, we will help traditional and conventional industries to transform through the adoption of technology. 3, we will enhance venture financing channels and support the development of startups and industries. Startups are very important in terms of enriching our ecosystem, and it is essential to the sustainable development of the INT sector. So we will support startups at various stages of development by way of capital support, and also we will identify quality and investment opportunities with potential and attract foreign and mainland investments to invest in local startups and enhance collaboration so as to drive INT developments in the GBA and Hong Kong.
Strategy number 4, promoting IT culture for all and enhancing the overall INT atmosphere in the community. In our blueprint, there are strategies on promoting INT culture for all, science for all. In September this year, our country issued an information note on popularizing scientific knowledge. Science for all is just as important as innovation and technology. This will help us build our strength and lay a solid foundation in driving technological development in our country. We want to enhance people's science literacy through promoting science for all. This means we will hold activities on popularizing science knowledge. We will also work with local and district organizations on those efforts. We will also promote community-wide engagement in major INT events and promote science education for all. This is all in a drive to promote science education for all. The fifth strategy is about enriching INT talent resources and developing an international talent hub. Talent follows industries. We want to start with driving industry development and then develop an international talent hub. In terms of nurturing local talent, we will work with the Education Bureau. At various stages of learning, there will be INT learning. We will also launch a range of measures to attract mainland and overseas talent. And we will also take steps to retain such top-notch talent. The sixth strategy, accelerating the development of digital economy and also smart city development in Hong Kong to enhance people's quality of life. INT is a key part in driving the development of a digital economy and smart city development. This is also an essential element for a smart city. For example, for a smart government initiative, by 2025, we will promote the use of I Am Smart among all government departments so that people can access electronic government services one-stop. And in terms of developing our digital infrastructure, we will also massively increase the floor area for technological infrastructure so that it will go up from 800,000 square meters as of now to 1.5 million square meters by 2026. We will also promote collaboration with the mainland in terms of INT to drive INT collaboration within the Greater Bay Area. We will go full steam ahead in developing the Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park in the Loop area. There will also be cross-boundary collaboration to facilitate the flow of innovation elements such as data and other factors. Our hope is that the River Loop area will be a key part and an innovation base in our country's technological development. The SAR government will work with the Ministry of Innovation and Technology in developing Hong Kong as a tech hub. There will be task forces to promote collaboration and coordinate collaboration efforts between the mainland and Hong Kong in terms of communication and also resources. There will also be actions to be taken to help Hong Kong better integrate into the national development. The eighth strategy is about leveraging Hong Kong's advantages as an international city to foster global INT collaboration. Hong Kong is a bridge connecting the mainland and the world. It is a platform to help tech companies from our country go global and also bringing in overseas element. This means we will be promoting collaboration and also developing Hong Kong into a center for INT conventions and exhibition, and also be a part of the Belt and Road Initiative, and also be a platform for international INT collaboration. We will also be exploring INT opportunities overseas and also leveraging the Oasis to seize the opportunities in INT development. In the next 5 and 10 years, Hong Kong's INT development will see a key phase. This development blueprint sets out clearly the development directions and the key areas of development. We want to listen to the views from various sectors of the community so that we can work together in laying out the action plan for the next step. And we can work together in developing Hong Kong into an international innovation and technology center. My team and I will be happy to take questions from the media. Thank you. The floor is now open to questions. Please indicate your wish to put questions. We will pass you the microphone. Before putting your questions, please identify your media outlet. And please limit yourself to 2 questions. And please focus on this blueprint for your questions. I'm from Cable TV. One of the measures include bringing in top-notch enterprises. Are there enterprises that the government has approached or identified? Can we have a list of such enterprises? How many such top-notch enterprises does the government want to bring in each year? And what kinds of incentives are we looking at? Now, for accommodation support for talent, does this mean housing units or is it going to be rent subsidies? What advantages do we have compared to places like Shenzhen? Thank you for your questions. I will invite Ms. Lilian Cheng, the Undersecretary, and also Ms. Rebecca Poon, the Commissioner for Innovation and Technology, to take your questions. Now, for the top-notch enterprises, our Bureau has lost no time and proactively approaching various INT enterprises. Many such firms have noted the measures in the policy address related to INT. In fact, they came to us, they reached out to us about setting up operations in Hong Kong and expanding their presence in Hong Kong. At the same time, we have also been proactive. There are areas we want to focus on, such as AI and data science, and also fintech, new energy, etc. We have been proactively identifying the leading companies and trying to get them to come to Hong Kong. Negotiations are underway for leading companies. We are working with Oasis, or the Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises. Once we have details, we will make an announcement. Now, what about the number of companies? We have a clear goal. In 5 years, that is by 2027, we want to attract no fewer than 100 representative and high potential companies to come to Hong Kong, with at least 20 of them being top-notch enterprises. On accommodation for the talented, there's an InnoCell at the Science Park. It's completed and it's popular with tech workers. The government has invited the Science Park to build phase 2 of the InnoCell at the River Loop area. There are also support measures in the future Northern Metropolis. There will also be facilities and support measures. We understand that housing is very important for tech talent. We also have research talent allowance starting from April 1st next year for PhD holders. We provide extra living allowances for these people that will take some pressure off in terms of living or housing expenses. Our bureau and the relevant departments will be working together to create a favorable environment so that this tech talent can pursue a career in Hong Kong.
Next question, please. The gentleman on the left. Good afternoon. I'm from Hong Kong 01. Now, in the blueprint, you said you would support the development of startups. However, startups usually involve financing channels like crowdfunding. But in the coming days, we are going to regularize crowdfunding. So why would these startups choose Hong Kong, where there are more regulations on crowdfunding? And also, you said you would enrich our INT talent pool. Now, previously, the Miu Miu said they have to move because their lease would not be renewed and they are considering to move to Singapore. Now, in terms of our future INT development, how can we prevent similar things from happening again? Thank you for your questions. Now, supporting startups is a very important strategy of the government in terms of developing Hong Kong into an international INT hub. In the blueprint, we have put forward a series of targeted measures, from capital support and other ancillary measures, to ramp up our support for startups. In the past few years, the Science and Technology Park and also Cyberport have taken forward a lot of work. We have seen a significant increase of a number of startups in Hong Kong over the past few years. Now we have some 4,000 startups in Hong Kong. Now, as I said, venture financing is very important for startups. According to the land sales program, according to the policy address, we have established the co-investment fund for this purpose. More measures will be announced in due course. Now, in terms of our investments, in terms of technology industry, especially technology startups, there is still a lot of room for improvement. We are lagging behind our neighbors. So in the future, besides a local capital investment, we will also introduce mainland and overseas investments into the INT industry. And also in the blueprints, besides ramping up government investment, we also want to incentivize relevant investors to invest in the INT. Now we have the Raise Plus scheme. The government has allocated $10 billion matching fund, and we want to encourage the same amount of investments from the private sector. In terms of supporting the development of the INT industry, now we put a lot of emphasis on ESG and green development. Now, as long as a company meets our standard, we will welcome them to establish a presence in Hong Kong. Over the past few years, a few dozen green technology companies have set up operation in our Science and Technology Park. For the way forward, we want to introduce more top-notch enterprises in the field of carbon reduction and other environmental friendly technology. This will be our focus. Thank you. Next question, please. The lady on the right. Good afternoon. I am from Shenzhen News. Now we are very interested in to hear about the better collaboration between Hong Kong and the Shenzhen government in terms of developing GBA into a high-quality R&D center. So I wonder how are the two governments working together to enhance the commercialization of R&D products? Thank you. In terms of integrating into the national development strategy, the Lok Ma Chau Loop development is the main focus of our efforts in the next few years. In year 2017 and 2011, two important memos have been signed between the SAR government and the Shenzhen government about the strategic direction in developing the Lok Ma Chau Loop. Now, our strategy is the development based on the principle of one zone, two parks. Now, our timetable is by the end of 2023, part of the land can be ready for investment. And also we are going to commission the several INT facilities by the end of 2025. The HKSITP as the Lok Ma Chau Loop will become a prime site to showcase the collaboration between Hong Kong and Shenzhen governments to facilitate free flow of capital, people, and data. We want to contribute to the country so that the country can become a prime base for INT development. And GBA is a bridgehead for this purpose. And also the Loma Loop will become the driving engine for the development of the new territories and North area. Thank you. The gentleman over there.
China Morning Post. How does the Bureau define international INT hub, and what are the benchmarks and the biggest obstacles to achieve that? And will the U.S. sanctions on mainland INT firms have any impact on that? The second question is the blueprint stresses on promoting INT culture in Hong Kong. So do you have any index to evaluate the result of the success? But even if the culture is there, Hong Kong is still lacking talent. So how is the progress of the latest talent ambition measures announced in the policy addressed, and how many applications do you guys receive? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, so I think maybe I can invite our Mr. Eddie Mike to answer your question based on some evaluation performance index. Okay, yeah. Eddie, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you for your question. In terms of figures for monitoring or measuring the success of our development plan, we have in this development plan put forward a number of indicators covering 4 different dimensions, including R&D expenditure, including startup number, talent population, as well as industry development. This is quite a new approach. These development figures, they are not KPIs as such, the key performance indicators, because these figures depend on a number of factors which are beyond our control, like the global investment climate, like the local economic conditions, etc. But at the same time, we believe it is very useful for all of us, to make use of these indicators as a reference point in reviewing the progress of what we have been doing in terms of taking forward the INT, Innovation and Technology Development in Hong Kong. So this is the approach that we have taken. And on top of these indicators, we have also in this blueprint, the last chapter, set out the vision, our vision of the innovation and technology development and the ecosystem in Hong Kong in the upcoming 5 to 10 years. So this is the vision that we are working towards to, and we certainly would like to listen to the views of the stakeholders and community in making sure that we are moving in the right direction. As regards your questions about the possible measures or policy of a certain country on Hong Kong, I think you have pointed out the point about the situation that we are facing. We are facing a very intense competition among the world in the area of innovation and technology. We are also facing a very volatile international political and economic situation and environment. So to a certain extent, of course, these kind of environments will not be conducive to international collaborations on the INT front. But at the same time, we have to bear in mind that Hong Kong enjoy quite a number of unique advantages, which we have been quite successful in the past. I quote some of these unique advantages we have in Hong Kong, including we have a very open economy. We are having a very excellent world-class infrastructure. All these are very conducive to building a very successful innovation and technology platform. And more importantly, in the case of Hong Kong, we have world-class researchers, we have world-class scholars in a number of frontier technologies, like microelectronics, like new energy. So, and with the provision of useful and world-class infrastructure that are coming on stream, we believe that any measure or any policy change by a country on Hong Kong should be limited.
下一位提問，左手邊。
Next question on the left, the gentleman in yellow. I'm from Ming Pao. First question In the vision and the reference value, the GDP, in terms of GDP, so the target is set at 1%. 10 years from now, in 2030, the target is to have the figure reach 5%. In Singapore, manufacturing makes up more than 20% of the local GDP. So when we look at our figure, our target, are we setting too conservative a target? How can we make ourselves more competitive vis-à-vis Singapore? You have just proposed two new areas. First, attracting new energy vehicles and semiconductor chips businesses to Hong Kong. For an automobile firm, we will need a lot of space for their manufacturing facilities. And now turning to chips, geopolitics and sanctions come into play. Will overseas businesses really take an interest in setting up an operation to produce chips and semiconductors in Hong Kong? Thank you for your questions. Now first, manufacturing as a percentage of our GDP. Our team has looked into this issue thoroughly. We've also looked at where the economy is probably going, and we have also considered Hong Kong circumstances, and then we came up with this target. This means starting from next year, manufacturing as a part of the GDP will need to grow by more than 20% each year. Currently, GDP makes up less than 1% of our GDP. Take $3 trillion as a base. So now we have less than 1% of our GDP in manufacturing. If we want to reach 5% in 10 years, we will have to reach 500 billions in 10 years. This means in the next 10 years for our manufacturing sector, they need to produce $400 billion in terms of economic output. We are not setting a conservative goal when you look at it this way. We want to be ambitious, but we also need to take steady steps to work towards the goal. You just mentioned the example of Singapore. Manufacturing makes up 20% or more than 20% of the GDP. That took many years of hard work in Singapore. For us, we need to work towards the right direction and keep at it. 15, 20 years from now, we will be able to achieve double-digit growth. For our economy, we are an externally oriented economy. Currently, less than 1% of our GDP is generated by manufacturing. But from a local survey, we can achieve 18% as the manufacturing share of our local economy. From another industry group, we can actually achieve 48% instead. This means GDP growth can also drive developments in many other aspects, in finance, logistics, etc. We gave you two examples as top-notch industries. We do wish to pursue development in those areas. For new energy vehicles, the 14th Five-Year Plan emphasizes green development, new energy vehicles. In the last 5 years, China has assumed the leading position in new energy vehicles. Many people see new energy vehicles as the wave of the future. Hong Kong has a solid foundation in research on new energy. We have universities, research institutes. They have the research capacity in this area. Another key area is that Hong Kong is part of our country. other cities in the Greater Bay Area can form this complete industry chain by ensuring a steady supply of parts and components for new energy vehicles. We had meetings with the Shenzhen municipal government. We discussed the possibility of automobile manufacturing in Hong Kong. We are discussing with several leading businesses in new energy vehicles on setting up relevant operations in Hong Kong. If we can pursue development in this area, then we can provide a lot of jobs for our young people. Secondly, we can also drive GDP growth in Hong Kong. Take Shenzhen as an example. BYD generates hundreds of billions of economic output for Shenzhen's GDP. Now, turning to semiconductor and chips. This is an area our country attaches importance to. For us in Hong Kong, we have top-notch talent on the design of chips and also automation of manufacturing and also other technical and manufacturing aspects of chips. This is where we have an edge in. The Hong Kong Science Park is also planning to have a microelectronics center built in the Inno Park. This will provide advanced manufacturing facilities for chips. Now, the third generation of semiconductors will be a key part for the future development of chips. This will be in October. Singapore proposed putting $650 million in the investment of the next generation of chips. South Korea is taking steps in the same direction. If possible, we want to pursue this development so that we can leverage our strength to deliver what our country needs. Next question. On the right, the lady in beige.
TMHK. So first question, you mentioned the target to attract leading IT firms in strategic industries. What has the government do to convince them to come to Hong Kong? Is the target of 20 such firms setting up in Hong Kong in the next 5 years too ambitious? Second question, you mentioned about achieving new industrialization for Hong Kong. What do you mean by that? Can you talk about the concrete plans and policy measures? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Okay, for your first question about attracting the strategic enterprises to come to Hong Kong, actually, Chief Executive already announced a number of measures, okay, to attract these international enterprises and talent to come to develop in Hong Kong. So actually, we prepare to give a specific supporting policy to support these strategic enterprises to develop, to set up or expand their business in Hong Kong. Okay, we will fully utilize our 30 billion co-investment fund, 5 billion strategic tech fund, okay, and also the land and space provided in the Lomazhou Hetao Loop, as well as the Xintian Technopole, okay, to attract these enterprises to develop their businesses. Meanwhile, we will have a special talent importing policy, okay, to allow these enterprises to input the talents they want to have in Hong Kong. Anyway, so right now we will work with OASIS, means Office for Attracting Strategic Office, okay, to attract these enterprises to come to develop their business in Hong Kong. What was the second question?
The new
okay, for the new industrialization, okay. And the new industrialization we mentioned here is different from the reindustrialization we talked before, okay. The new industrialization emphasizes on the information-driven development by adopting technologies in Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and new materials to create strong impetus to grow for growth in a sustainable manner. Okay, so this better reflects the direction towards modern industrialization. So to realize this new industrialization, on one hand, we will strengthen support to strategic industries such as new energy vehicles and the semiconductor chip, as I mentioned just now, to set up R&D or even production lines. And on the other hand, we will try to assist traditional industry in Hong Kong to upgrade and transform with the use of information technology. Thank you.
Hawaii.
Next question, please. On the right-hand side, the lady in white. Good afternoon. I'm from Hong Kong Economic Times. Now, according to the blueprint, you said to improve collaboration between Hong Kong and the mainland. Data exchange or data flow is one of the key INT elements exchange between across the border. So what kind of data will be exchanged with the mainland? What kind of regulation or what kind of legislation will be in place to set out clearly what data will be transmitted back to the mainland and what data will not? Thank you very much. I invite Mr. Victor Lam, the Government Chief Information Officer, to take this question. Thank you for your question. All along, we have been discussing the matter with our mainland counterparts about the flow of data. In the mainland, there are already regulations in place regulating the outflow of data from the mainland. We are trying to come up with a facilitation arrangement with the mainland. Once that is in place, we can ensure that some data can come to Hong Kong more conveniently. Say, for example, research data from universities. INT research data can be transmitted back to Hong Kong from the branches of Hong Kong universities in the mainland. We can then make possible co-researching between universities in Hong Kong and the mainland. And also, many enterprises are very interested in the cross-boundary flow of financial data. There are banks with presence in Hong Kong and the mainland. If the data is allowed to flow across the boundary, it will also facilitate operation of the businesses. There are also scientific research data, which is also a data asset. We want to facilitate flow of such data from the mainland to Hong Kong. In terms of data flow, we are working closely with the mainland government. Next year, we hope that there will be a trial scheme. What we have to ensure is that after data from the mainland is transmitted to Hong Kong, will they flow out from Hong Kong to overseas places? That is our concern. Well, we are trying to ensure safe and secure analysis of the data by pooling the data together with data in Hong Kong. If that's the case, then Hong Kong can become a hub for data exchange. Thank you. The gentleman over there. Good afternoon. I'm from One Way Pao. Now about the reference indicators. Can you tell us more? How did you come up with these indicators? And what is the value of what is the reference value of these indicators? Will future policy address be formulated on top of these data? In terms of basic research, according to the background, you said more funding has been injected into the fund. But still, many industry stakeholders consider the amounts to be insufficient. So are there more specific measures, for example, additional amounts to be injected into the fund to support universities' research? Now, for the first question, I would defer it to Mr. Eddie Mack, the Permanent Secretary. Thank you, Secretary, and thank you, media friend. Your questions were on our reference indicators put forward in the blueprint. Was mentioned in the blueprint, these indicators would be useful in terms of gauging the implementation progress of the blueprint. They include R&D expenditure, the number of startups, the number of talents, R&D talents, and also the manufacturing percentage in the GDP. Now, some elements are within our control, but some are really beyond our control. Say, for example, economic data. They would be highly dependable on the global economic atmosphere and the investment sentiment. Now we are trying to adopt an innovative approach with these indicators. We want to assess the implementation progress and the efficacy of the blueprint. So these indicators will show us the trend in the past few years. And also, looking ahead in the next 5 to 10 years, in terms of the visions and the measures announced in the blueprint. For example, the number of major R&D infrastructure which will be commissioned in the next 5 to 10 years, and also the measures to attract talents and enterprises. In particular, in the new industry sector, these indicators are very useful in terms of gauging the measures. So, like the Secretary said, some indicators are really ambitious. We want to be ambitious while taking pragmatic steps. We continue to review the implementation progress. If we find any discrepancy between the indicators and the reality, we will see whether they have to be adjusted, and we will be happy to listen to stakeholders' views.
The second question on basic research. The government sets great store by the capacity of our universities in basic research. We have a solid basic foundation in basic research. This is why we propose the development of our city into an international INT hub. This is also why it's so strategically important to take forward the work. There will be enhancements to channels of capital. We have TMHK, when we also have the INT Venture Fund. There will also be several areas in which we enhance the work. First, we'll try to secure additional resources to have thematic research project. There are 863 or 973 in the mainland, where people put money into key areas to solve key questions for the country. Such projects are also found in Europe and the US, interdisciplinary studies and projects. We will also consider dedicated funds for various universities to enhance their scientific research facilities. Over the years, our universities used to have an edge in terms of scientific research facilities, but now the edge is gone. We're falling behind. We are also considering constructing new facilities. We have been in talks with the Ministry of Science and Technology. This is about granting access to our local research people to the facilities in the Greater Bay Area. Now, the third point is about nurturing our INT talent. We need to provide greater support for young scientific research talent. We also need to bring in top-notch research talent. We have heard tales of cities near us attracting talent to their places. We also need to do something on our part. We want to bring talent in, and they are also bringing in other people. And we need to bring in distinguished talent from both the mainland and overseas. We will take the last question. On the right, the journalist over there. I'm from Commercial Radio. Now, on the question of GDP, the blueprint sets out the goal that manufacturing will make up 5% of our GDP in 10 years. But then, in the policy address, the chief executive actually said that 10% is not impossible. So are we actually dialing down our target? After all, it's 5%, not 10%. Just then, the government mentioned the manufacturing of semiconductor chips. But are we concerned about possible sanctions from the US when it comes to chips? As I said, manufacturing making up 10% of our GDP is not entirely impossible. We are working towards that goal in stride. But do you know what would that take? That would mean we need 1 trillion in the economic output of our manufacturing sectors per year. That may happen in 15 to 20 years, but that's hard in 5 to 10 years. We're just getting started. We have a lot of land that is yet to be released. It will take years before we can release those sites. It will also take time for industry development. It will also take time to have the talent ready. For the next 5 to 10 years, we're only setting the goal at 5%. It looks like we have a conservative target, but then this is a key stage in our work. We need to lay a solid foundation. Once we get the foundation right in the next 5 to 10 years, and then we can have a takeoff once our manufacturing reaches 10% or more as part of our GDP. Our current circumstances mean that we cannot achieve that goal overnight. But then once we take steady steps, we will reach that goal. Now, turning to the question of chips. We have formulated this blueprint, taking into account our country's development needs. How do we leverage our strengths to deliver what our country needs? That's our priority. Now, why are we focusing on the third generation semiconductors? This is where chips are going across the globe. For third generation semiconductor chips, mask aligners are not part of it. We don't have to worry about the problems of mask aligners. We don't need mask aligners. So we have considered the needs of our country, and we have also taken into account our circumstances and the circumstances of our country. And then we have come up with this goal. As I said, Singapore and South Korea are also working on third generation chips. And for our country, gallium nitride semiconductor chips, the mainland is doing well on this front. That concludes our press conference today. Thank you. We will ask our speakers to stay for a bit as some friends of the media would like to take more photos.
唔該晒各位，唔該。
Thank you all.